Well, this is the first time I've been on the Dana stage when it's as low as this. It's really quite remarkable to look up at all of you. I like that very much. Well, I think we just seen two extraordinary films, and we'll start with Doug because Doug and I, first of all, thanks for bringing us the title of the film, Inside a Poem. And I quite like that.
You're very welcome.
And the film is very crisp and very clear and very accessible. And I thought, we talked about this last night, there is this incredibly transcendent moment that occurs in this film that changes both of their lives. So I would just like to ask, where is this coming from? How personal was this film? What was it inspired by? Give us sort of the origin story.
Sure. I mean, the inspiration from the story actually came from a viewing of Casablanca, which some of you recognize the reference at the end. But it was at a time when I was just thinking about our culture, and particularly in the gay culture, this kind of lack of intimacy, a lot of sex, but not a lot of intimacy, and this struggle for authenticity, but also I wondered about the classic Hollywood kiss. Could it still exist in our culture? You know, this power to transform our lives, like you said. And so that became part of the muse for it. And then I started to look at all these quotes about kisses and research, and I wanted to write something that celebrates literature and being literate, and to find a character that embraces that in a believable way. And then I was in a writing group with other actors, and we were writing stories for each other. And so I was given these two actors to create a story for. And so knowing them and knowing that Miguel had a propensity for Shakespeare and everything else, it just felt a natural fit. And then the story of the two men and the difference in their lives and the places where they are just kind of evolved from there. But yeah, the quest for intimacy and the power of a kiss is something I want to keep alive in our culture. So
Very, very well done. And there's, the two characters are at different places in their lives. First of all, it's one man's boss. So there's that sort of level of respect that has to be paid regardless. But one character comes to this film, comes to the scene with great urgency, and the other one is sort of living in a relative complacency in his relationship. And so, it's interesting that it takes a little while. They sit down and talk before, and Luis is still rejected. And then something just happens which jolts the other man out of his complacency, and this connection occurs. I found that very powerful.
thank you. For me it was, a kiss can transform one life, but can a kiss transform two lives? Can it bring somebody to their truth, and it can get somebody back to their truth? And so that's what I'm trying to balance in there.
Can I ask you a question about the boss's a personal relationship? The film ends and you feel he's reevaluating that relationship, right? Mm-hmm. So was he really complacent about it, or was he indifferent or conflicted about his relationship? No, I'm asking more.
Oh, I'm not in a position to say.
But you used the word conflicted. No, you used the word
well, I guess I felt that he was going through sort of there's a short conversation between him and his husband. It would seem very, very sort of blasé, like by rote. And I thought that, maybe he's not going through the motions, but there was nothing particularly special about the call. And so he's vulnerable to being caught really off guard by by Luis's intensity. That's all.
I stand corrected. That shot went by really fast where you had to read it on the screen.
Can you use your microphone, please?
You had to read it on the screen, the text.
Yes.
That was too fast for me. But my vision is degenerating like my personality, so I apologize.
Well, the image on the text, is not with his husband, it's with this hookup. And he's on his way to meet this guy, and is kind of blowing off his husband because he wants he is kind of complacent. He just needs something to wake himself up. He doesn't realize that it's really intimacy and a kiss and a shared thing, but he's trying to find it in our culture of kind of like anonymous hookup and just excitement. And so that's where he's heading off.
Yeah, I think that lends even a different layer to the importance of this kiss. You know?
Yeah, for both of them.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, thank you for bringing it to us, Doug. This is Doug's second film that we've had at Middlebury New Filmmakers Festival, and we are hoping that he'll be back next time with a feature film. Is there anything you can comment about that? Anything you want to?
No, there's just a couple of things I've been working on and exploring, and you know, I'm primarily an actor, and so writing and directing, if you tell my age, is being a new filmmaker at my age it's a new expansion, a new exploration in my life, and so you know, the fun part about it is there seems to be a recurring theme in terms of this need for intimacy, this thing about my first film was a lot about trust and definitions of trust and how do people find that. And so there's different stories percolating and expanding in my head. So
we will keep our fingers crossed on
Thank you.
Doug.
Thanks.
Thank you. So Leo. So Leo is a first-time filmmaker. Okay. Now, did anybody catch? I hope you all did. That Leo Sachs is the person who produced A Taste of Heaven. We all saw that, right? So he experiences Raymond late in his life.
Well, first, if I,
Yes.
excuse me, I just established that you're a pup. I'm 65, so you're a pup, okay? Right. I'm a first-time filmmaker. But I've been living with this story since I first saw Raymond in 1982.
Yes,
So
at Jazz Fest, yes.
I went to public school, I can't do the math. How old was I in 82? I don't know.
Younger, you were younger than you are now.
I'm much younger, and, right. But very spiritually lost in life.
Mm-hmm.
And Raymond was so dazzling, and I just got to reevaluate my whole life in the music because it was so. I would turn on AM radio when I was 5 years old, and there were just rays of sunshine that came out. So music has always spoken to me, and seeing him, a showman in rhinestones with the choir and colors, and on my first trip to New Orleans, with a strawberry lemonade in my hand, and the earth is moving, and magnolias are in bloom, and the scent of fried oysters are conflicting with the magnolias, and I'm enthralled. And I had what I have come to realize is an experience that you can only have in the gospel tent, which is this soul cleansing cry. And it would take me years to embrace Raymond's message at the time, which was, you can't run from the truth and you can't hide from the truth. Now, he was speaking about his own personal truth as a man who was experiencing judgment and intolerance.
And sinner.
Right. And I was also lost. But change, you've got to take the action.
Yeah.
And I took the action, and when I came back to visit him, I got it past my teeth, which is, would you like to make a record? Would you like to go into a studio? I walked through the fear fast enough to realize I was proposing recording an album with the biggest fish in the sea. And I had no question about who the musicians would be or what the material would be or the talent of the artist, but I did make a first-time producer's mistake. I forgot to pick an engineer who could capture the sound of the radio in 1995. So, because styles change, I didn't want the style of the moment. So I opted to record for a production style that I knew would transcend the time. And that was very harmful to the success of the project because the industry decided, in addition to all the issues that Raymond possessed, presented as a threat to the evangelical base, I was told we made art, we didn't make commerce, and that we made content, we didn't make form. And what do those things mean? What does that even mean?
Well, would you say that the relative failure of the album in terms of its distribution had an impact on Raymond so much that it caused him, to sort of cycle or to move in ways which led to his demise? Is there a connection there?
No, because he went to Alan Toussaint, who was the greatest producer in New Orleans.
Kudos to you for those interviews.
Thank you. And that was one of his last interviews before he died. And I'd just like to say, I still need the money to. This is way darker than I ever remembered, so I apologize for that. Obviously, color correction, sound mix, all the licensing issues. Harry Connick and Elton John are being dangled as potential last interviews. But the form of the film and the arc is there. But there's so much post-production that made me kind of want to sink in my seat and I apologize to everyone here. So
we have a very forgiving audience. Do people feel deprived for watching this film? I don't think so. So let's move on to something where we just want to affirm this is a great film, beautifully put together. The archival material is fantastic, and it feels like one of these rich biographies that has many layers to it. So I don't want to mischaracterize anything, it's a damn good film.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that. And I did get a Ken Burns Fellowship to finish it earlier this year. It was a 6-month thing, and it did lead to a pitch with the head of documentaries for PBS, where it is right now.
Yeah.
And and her pitch was I was reminded that Raymond was a public school teacher, and this belongs on PBS, and the opportunities to, reinforce the message of what I think of the film is God's unconditional love, and God loves you no matter what, and address things like bullying and everything, which the film, I saw The Girl, very interesting, had a very important bullying with a twist of an end, that was really cool. But the first thing that Alan tried to do was to buy my record. And he offered pennies on the dollar, or his representatives. And I said no. And that was one of the smartest things I ever did, because now I'm going to be able to use that film. And it wasn't the failure of the album. It was critically acclaimed, but I just couldn't get distribution.
Right, you're right. It was rejected for who he was. He was felt to be a threat, so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they made a live record with him. And it was in the last week of his life that I went back to him and I said, they've broken their promises. Should we try and get you out of that contract?
So you retain the rights to the album, to Taste of Heaven?
I financed it.
So you could release it?
I will, when the film is out.
Okay, good. Okay, interesting. Do you want to talk about distribution for this film, where you're at with that? People always ask us, where can I see? I want a friend to see the movie. So where do they go?
I pitched to PBS that it would be great to run in Pride Month in June.
Okay.
Next year will be the 25th anniversary of his death.
Yeah.
So, kind of feels right.
Are you hopeful about that?
Absolutely.
Good. Who has questions for either of our excellent filmmakers here? Questions? Somebody in the back? Yes, go ahead.
I really enjoyed the film, and I wondered at the end, this is sort of off the chart, but there were a lot of credits, and I didn't really remember seeing a lot of those people in the movie. I wasn't quite sure what they were referring to. it would be like maybe a song title, and then, you know, people listed underneath, several of them.
Oh, that's just legal stuff that you have
You're
to,
right.
that was legal stuff you have to address when a song is played, who the performer is and who owns the master recording. And those credits are a mess, they're all gonna be fixed and everything, but
Okay,
they're
so
just
you
all.
quoted John Swenson in one of these things. No, I saw my friend John was listed, I was like, wow.
Well, but that's in the thank yous.
Oh, I see, got
That's
it.
thank yous, yeah.
Thank you, very good.
Thank you, Teresa.
I don't know that mic is accomplishing a whole lot.
Yeah.
I'm trying to overcome it, you know,
Sorry.
but it's not,
Project.
it's okay. Who has a question now?
Oh,
Yes,
I just
go
want to
ahead.
say, I think it's an amazing project. I think that it's coming into its time now. That the album was made before its time, just like Ray lived before his time. Now, everything that's involved with everything you guys were doing is coming to fruition now. And I'm with the PBS thing. Every kid in America should see it. And this guy was just tireless. I mean, you watch the film, it's exhausting. I mean, he never quit. He was on all levels. He was there for everyone. He lived a double life. He tried to be a father. He was just an absolute maestro, and a Liberace type maestro with a big ego. But you just had to love him, and his message was ultimately, you know, to love God and give your life to God. And you know that has just become so big in culture now.
Wow.
Period.
I was always worried, because I had a conflicted relationship with him, because
Yeah.
we were just, you know, just so tense. Because because we're willful people, and, you know, I think we wanted the same things. I thought he was gonna be the Bruce Springsteen of gospel. I thought he was gonna collaborate with country artists and pop artists and opera singers. He just had that ability
Did
to
very well.
to transcend those genres. Anyway, we fought artistically, creatively, but and he was very condescending to me. He was patronizing to me. He was disparaging. He was negative, and I got a lot of empathy from his core singers. All of which is what I'm trying to say. I was very personally conflicted about whether I liked him. You know, I loved him, but I didn't know if I liked him. And making this film was always this struggle. And I've always worried throughout the making of the film whether he was a likable person and whether that was relevant. Did anybody not find him likable? It doesn't matter?
Well, people said it was difficult, you know.
Yeah.
But the testimonials 24 years later, or however many years later, you're interviewing all these people, they just were effervescent. Everyone was just electrified by this guy. I mean, you just can't help being touched by his work.
And like the film, and like Liza last night, Lisa, the automatic, Liza?
Yes,
Lisa. There are 30 interviews there. I interviewed everyone there because he brought me into his world. So I'm so proud that I could assemble, I like the way everything flowed, because they were talking to me, and all the questions were individual for that person with their relationship with Raymond. And I'm glad that kind of natural thing came through.
And also, the interviews had to be done by you because you had this relationship with him for so long, and you were so significant to him. It couldn't just be any random interviewer.
I've got to get Leo out of here to go to the airport. We're going to take one more question and we'll have to wrap. Go ahead.
But not really a question, but you were asking if we found him, you know, empathetic, and I just thought it was his flaws that really made him so endearing, and particularly at the end, you know, when he, the Mickey Mouse theme, and he did to his own name, and you couldn't help but love him for his big ego, and it was part of what made him so human.
He was bullied as a child. He had older brothers in the macho culture of the project he told me they used to try to beat the gay out of me. That's what he told me. Would you just say one thing? Because I have so much respect for what you created. I don't know. I mean, do you think Do you think this will speak to community?
Oh, definitely. I mean, because the struggle for authenticity, I just, I had a question of like, why are our films paired together? But after seeing them together, it's such a difficult thing, no matter where you are in your life, no matter who you are, to find that thing that says, but this is me. And I have to be willing to put that out there and risk rejection and everything else. And so many people talked about his struggle for, and he talked about, too, of that sense of, this is who I am, and I'm not going to deny it, and I'm going to celebrate it. And I think that's a huge thing that, as the culture has changed in the gay world and everything else, we still feel very different. We feel ostracized. Laws are changing back to, wanting to put us back in the closet, deny us our rights, and so it's a constant struggle to really just say, this is me, and acceptance of yourself as well as acceptance of the community. So I think it speaks very highly, to what everybody's still going through.
I would like to continue because we're actually peeling back layers here, which is fascinating to me and I'm sure to all of you. But we have to clear the auditorium for a 2 o'clock screening, and we've got to get Leo to the airport. If you could give both these folks a round of applause.